I'm going to be reading from the middle of the book, where Alicia Purcell is taken by two Native people to a spirit dance. And this is from Alicia's voice as she sees the dance. The only light was from the fires, and the only sound from the drums. The Native people moved slowly on soft earth. Opposite the entrance and high in the bleachers, I made out 3 enclosures created by hanging blankets open at the front. In each sat a figure holding a long staff. They were heavily cloaked, and their feet seemed to be covered in thick cloth. They shivered now and then with a rattling sound. More drummers came from somewhere and stood around the 3 fires that filled the longhouse. Those are the new dancers. Ruby pointed to the figures rocking back and forth in the 3 stalls. Each one has 2 helpers with them day and night for the 3 months during the initiation. They look after the new ones. Gradually, they help bring out their spirit dance and their song. They learn it, and once it's out, everybody knows it. Sounds issued from the new dancers like birds weaving between the drum beats in the air, getting caught in the sparks and swirling up to the rafters. They're crying? I was sitting between Miles and Ruby, and my voice sounded like a child's. It's their spirits coming out, Miles said. 2-toned cries slipped out of their throats. Over there's our son, Ruby said. He's been dancing for 2 seasons. A man sitting on the lowest bench was rocking back and forth, the deer hooves of his staff rattling with the pulse of his movements. And then he was propelled to his feet. Men gathered around him, drumming and singing. He crouched over, legs apart, and went in long, rapid strides down one side of the longhouse. The drummers lagged behind. Once he was beside the fire, he turned around, crouching again, and was stopped by something. He tried again, but the thing that was inside him vibrated, and he couldn't move. Something's wrong. Even Miles was disturbed. The dancer limped back to where he began, and with the drumming starting his song, his huge strides took him in an instant past every fire, and then he was stopped. He didn't get it right. He was left shaking and inconsolable in the midst of the other dancers. Then the first of the initiates, startled as out of a sleep by the women surrounding her, singing her song, was brought down from the bleachers, an elder on either side of her. With tiny steps, she began to go around the fires, pausing every now and then, taking small steps in one place, then forward again, her hands making narrow circles away from her body and back. Her movements seemed mostly internal. This was as much of a dance as silence was a song, and the song was an agony up and down her spine, in her feet that seemed to ache with the excruciating detail of her almost stillness. She swayed. She was surrounded, protected, watched by the women. As she passed, older women came down from the bleachers and followed in behind her on the floor. They raised their arms in a celebratory gesture, and their hands vibrated like the leaves on a tree animated by the breeze. She was learning to walk. Everything had to be done from the beginning. She came near me, and I was afraid. I wanted something ornamental only, a quiet ritual in a dead language, the sound of the organ and not the drums, or the clinking of glasses, not the deer hooves, not these spirits and the difficulty she seemed to be in. The drums beat out her song. The native men with their strong, dark voices were a chorus to her. I leaned over as she passed in front of me. The drums and the chorus were masking her wail. I wanted to steal her away. Her cries were of such terrible sorrow for something larger than the world. I wanted to rock them, hug them, say, it's okay, almost crying myself, it must stop, it's okay now, breathe, quiet now, one hand on her wrist, checking her pulse. She had gone once around the longhouse and still moved forward, but her sisters held her back. She was finished. They took her to her place. Her cries continued like the cries of someone who has dried up from too much sorrow and has only convulsions left. The next dancer started.